Hello, my name is Hemingway Jones and I make videos about fountain pens, inks, journals, and journaling for curious people, so welcome to the channel. So have you ever gone shopping for a new fountain pen and you ask yourself, do I really need another Jowo Nib? Well, today we're going to answer that. We're going to look at the Retro51 William Morris fountain pen with a Jowo Nib. And that opens the door to William Morris himself. We're going to talk about him. He was a visionary Victorian artist and master of the decorative arts. And he was a member of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, and in some ways he might be considered the grandfather of dark academia. So William Morris can teach us quite a bit about assessing value. So come with me, won't you, as we take a look at the Retro51 fountain pen and William Morris. Do you really need another Jowo Nib, or Schmidt nib for that matter? Where does the value reside in your new fountain pen purchase if it has yet another Jowo Nib? These are the value rationalizations or reconciliations that we need to make when we're pricing a new pen. Steel nibs are fantastic. There are many steel nibs that are among my favorites, from the Lamy Safari to the Pelican M200. But how much should you pay for a steel nib? When the price goes above $300 or even laps $400, should you expect something more? Perhaps a gold nib? So this kind of thinking goes into many purchases really, not just fountain pens. And it's often easy to argue one side or the other side or the opposite the next day. You can always design reasons to justify any purchase. But it's good to have some guidelines just to keep you into check and just to make sure you're not buying a fountain pen for the sake of it that's really not going to get used and enjoyed by you. I think these guardrails are especially important when you look at the higher price fountain pens like Montblanc, Visconti, or really anything over $500 or $600. What is it that I'm actually paying for? It's a good thing to know before you put that credit card down. William Morris was one of the most earnest and visionary of all the Victorians, a founder of the arts and crafts movement, and a member of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, along with Edward Burne-Jones and Dante Gabriel Rossetti. He was deeply influenced by the work of John Ruskin. Perhaps he is known more these days for his wallpaper than for his ideas. But he strongly believed that an industrial society could learn quite a bit from the medieval guilds, that people would find happiness and fulfillment in craftsmanship, both by producing and being surrounded by beautiful items that they could take joy in the fact that they had some part in producing. William Morris lived a short, but a full and interesting life that was not without its compromises or its contradictions. William Morris is still very important. His influence is still filtering. It's seen in the Bauhaus movement, in the arts and crafts movement, in the hippie movement. Pretty much anytime you're reaching back into nostalgia and pulling out some of the best items of the past to make your life more beautiful and more fulfilling, well, some of that owes its influence to William Morris. Everything made by man's hands has a form, which must be either beautiful or ugly. Beautiful if it is in accord with nature and helps her. Ugly if it is discordant with nature and thwarts her. It cannot be indifferent. William Morris. Jowo and Schmidt nibs are like ETA and Seiko movements in the watch world, arguably the most important parts of the watch, yet identical across a broad spectrum of watch brands, but expressed uniquely from watch to watch. But once you have a Jowo nib, is it worth it to purchase another? Are you gaining a new experience or just repeating something you've already done? I have often called these sorts of fountain pens Jowo Nib delivery devices. I mean this at least half in jest. There are actually some compelling reasons to purchase a standard Jowo nib. For one, the writing experience is predictable, and many people like that. They know that they are getting a reliably good nib and a very familiar writing experience. That's not a bad thing. Secondly, these nibs can serve as platforms for customization, or at least refinement. Esterbrook offers many custom nib options on theirs. Another reason is these nibs can be easily swapped if there's an issue. This is similar to why cartridge convert or fill systems are probably the best. If there's an issue, you just switch it out for another one. Low cost, easy, modular. What's wrong with that? Another strong point is that steel is a very hearty material to craft a nib from. So they really aren't that easy to damage, and they should last a lifetime or two if you're lucky and if nothing catastrophic happens to it. There is no excuse for doing anything which is not strikingly beautiful. William Morris. So now that we've discussed some compelling reasons for buying a steel nib, should you put a cap on how much you should spend for one? So I would like to make one point, and I really can't emphasize this enough. When I state these rules are valid for me. I share them with you so that we can discuss them, but you are free to create your own rules and ignore them or live by them however way you see fit. But for me, I like to have certain guidelines and certain narratives that I touch on from time to time. It just makes this that much more of a fulfilling hobby and keeps me in the center of the road. So personally, when I hit around 260 US dollars, I grow more hesitant for a steel Jowo nib. And by $300, I must be paying for something pretty remarkable, or I'm going to look for something else. Since the cost of the nib is low, then the balance of what you are spending goes toward the barrel and the cap, its materials, the heritage and romance of the brand, or how much you resonate with the color and the shape of the pen, or the name of the pen. If it has something that attracts you, something else significant has to justify the purchase for you, or why would you put out that kind of money? Personally, I am as susceptible to marketing as anyone, and with my pursuit of romance, maybe more so. So after Retro51 created a William Morris fountain pen, along with the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, well, I am there. Please take my money. This pen features William Morris's Blackthorn wallpaper design. His wallpapers were created using a series of wood blocks painted with natural dyes and aligned with pins. This was medieval style of manufacture and decorative arts. It was a stylistic attempt to bring items from the outside into the home. So let's talk about this William Morris fountain pen from Retro51. First, you have to love the packaging. I just adore these tubes that the pens come in. They're just fantastic storage devices and just lovely and decorative. I also appreciate that it has the logo of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City, and around the cap it says Retro51 in very beautiful engraved letters. The pen itself is metal. It's very beautiful. Very decorative. The Blackthorn wallpaper design is rendered perfectly, very bright, colorful, and just a joy to behold. Has a bit of feminine energy, which I appreciate. It's very elegant in its form, and I like the screw cap as well. And of course, if we unscrew this, we will find that Jowo Nib. In this case, the Jowo Nib is a 1.1 millimeter stub. It's a fantastic nib. I have it on some other pens, Conklin, a few others. I like that the threads are metal, where the cap screws into the barrel. And the plastic grip is very nice with a little taper at the end, so your fingers don't slip down onto the nib and become inky. The one thing that's a little bit disappointing is it does not come with a converter. It comes with 2 cartridges in the barrel. I set those aside. I considered using them, but I actually swiped out a converter from another pen, and I decided to fill this with some ink that perhaps William Morris would appreciate. This is Tatsuya's Hokusai Koyai Dark Indigo Bottled Ink. And it's a very wet ink. It also has a neutral pH, so it'll be very delicate on your pen. In this case, this pen's pretty hearty, but it'd be great for a pen that's vintage or something like that. And I think William Morris would approve. He was a big fan of Hokusai. So writing with this pen is a joy because writing with a Jowo stub nib is a fantastic experience. And this one is particularly wet with the feed and the way that the converter sends ink to the feed to the nib. So I like all that. It's very expressive and fun to write with. So I know I'm going to use this pen quite a bit. I love William Morris. I'm very invested in that. I love the experience of writing with it, and stub nibs are just so much fun and they make your handwriting look very interesting. So I'm very pleased with it. Ornamental pattern work to be raised above the contempt of reasonable men must possess 3 qualities: beauty, imagination, and order. William Morris. So let's discuss a bit about the value proposition of a Jowo nib, or really anything else. There are many factors to consider to really get to your final reconciliation of whether it's a good purchase for you or not. So take, for instance, all the different names for the different shades of red. From burgundy to vermilion, crimson, scarlet, you get the idea. If one is trained in color, you can differentiate from among them. If you're not, you might just see red. Actually, color theory is really an amazing course of study, certainly worthy of dark academia. But you think of all the different shades and the different choices therein. Now, let's take that idea of all the different color and look for an equivalent in fountain pens. Let's talk about the materials that fountain pens are made of. If one does not differentiate the different types of resins, ranging from a Mont Blanc Meisterstück to a Kaweco Sport to a Benu to a Piniter Full Metal Jacket or whatever, and simply lumps all of them into the general catch-all of plastic, then that person doesn't find any value in the material and accordingly should not pay more for anything but the most basic and easily manufactured materials. If you don't value the differences, then there's no reason to pay for them. But when a pen inspires you, that changes the equation completely. The true secret of happiness lies in taking a genuine interest in all the details of daily life. William Morris. So how much value does one give to the story of the pen, to its heritage? A compelling story can be seductive. The resurrection of a famous pen brand feels worthy of my support. I'm on board with that. Also, one doing something wholly interesting will always hold my attention. So story is a compelling reason for me to add into my value equation. But is this all just marketing? Should we allow ourselves to get swept up in it? I would say yes, sometimes, but not when it's a brazen cash grab. When it has a compelling story that inspires you and makes you feel as if that pen allows you to access a pool of creativity you would not have had otherwise, then yes, you cannot put a price on inspiration, or how you resonate with a pen, or how that pen inspires you to be more you, more creative, more compassionate, more open-minded, more generous in sharing your voice through lovely curlicue words meticulously crafted in bright, luscious inks. And this is, after all, what a passion for fountain pens and this lovely hobby of ours does for us, isn't it? So otherwise, remain cynical against the efforts of pen companies and influencers to sell you another pen with just another Jowo Nib. That is, if there is not some other compelling reason. Though I freely acknowledge that this reason may simply be that this fountain pen brings me joy. Have nothing in your houses that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful. So I would leave you this. You know that fountain pens are useful. If you're going to buy another one, know also that that fountain pen is beautiful. So, what do you think now about buying a Jowo Nib? Is this something you're going to put in your calculation? What do you think of the Retro51 William Morris fountain pen? And what do you think of William Morris? William Morris means quite a bit to me. I just find him such a compelling personality, so complex, so compromised, and yet so earnest. So thank you so much for watching, and if you've reached this point in the video, please subscribe. I'd love to have you along on this journey with us. From a pen, you can go anywhere, and we certainly do. Also, membership is available on this channel. So if this channel is inspiring you, why not help to support it? I'd appreciate it very much. So I make new videos every week, and I have a live show on Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. So I promise we will see each other again very soon, further up the road. So take care.